Now, let's get into the power conversation because power outages, especially this month of February, has become a normal phenomenon in the capital city of Accra and in the Ashanti region. But there's been little explanation from players in the sector. Joy News is, however, learning of consistent shortfall in supply, forcing the Electricity Company of Ghana to undertake unannounced load shedding. Today in Parliament, the minority says Ghana's power sector is on the brink of collapse on the back of recent intermittent power outages. According to minority spokesperson on the Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapo, government is so broke and unable to purchase fuel to power the thermal plants to generate electricity.
The load shedding is getting worse by the day. The very day His Excellency the President was delivering the State of the Nation address and boasting, at that very period, the utility companies were shedding load. The situation appears to be exacerbating. Yesterday alone, there was a whopping 530 megawatts of deficits, culminating in curtailment of power to Côte d'Ivoire, to Burkina Faso, and to Togo. You would attest that there was some massive darkness yesterday. Today at 12 p.m., load shedding would commence again. Our investigation indicates that some of the thermal plants are down. Specifically, TAPCO is down, TICO is down, and so they are not generating enough power. But more importantly, there's a lack of fuel in the system. Because of the financial constraints, government has not been able to procure adequate fuel to fire some of our thermal plants, culminating in the load shedding that we're experiencing. 1 month of load shedding is more than enough. This is not sporadic, this is continuous, this is persistent, and we think that the handlers of the power sector should do the onerous thing by informing the people of Ghana so they can plan ahead of time.
Well, this certainly puts much pressure, especially on the two major political parties as they prepare their manifestos. I've been joined by Kwadwo Poku, who is an energy expert and chairman of the NPP Manifesto Committee on Energy and Petroleum. And also, I've been joined on the other side by former Power Minister and MP for Pro East, who is also on the Energy and Petroleum Committee of the NDC. Grateful for your time, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Kwadwo Poku. In the last few days, there's been issues with power supply, even as the president promised this week that we will never go back to the days of darkness. This puts a lot of pressure on your team as you work on the manifesto. And that manifesto seeks to retain the NPP government in power, correct?
Yes, 100%. Aisha, let me say afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. Look, it does put pressure on everybody when mechanical and electrical gadgets basically has times when they fail. Unfortunately, it's campaign season, and our brothers in the NDC don't have a message, so they are praying every night that something will go wrong and they'll call it doomsday. Yes, yesterday, SemPower, which produces 360 megawatts, tripped around 4 o'clock. Now, it's unfortunate that Honorable Jinapo, who stood there, knew, because based on the breakdown that he was giving, he knew that that 580 that he was talking about included SemPower that has tripped, and it had tripped that very day. So it's not like there is a problem and somebody is hiding it. Based on the information that he had, but he was very conspicuous to hide that fact that he will explain to the Ghanaians that the 580 megawatts that he's talking about is as a result of one major IPP tripping, and it's off the grid. So 360 megawatts of SemPower was off yesterday. Yes, rightfully so. There's problems with TAPCO and TICO, which we are seriously looking at. And also the Butte Dam, which comes on in the evening, the Unit 2 had a problem. Aisha, these are mechanical and electrical gadgets. These are equipments that nobody wishes them not to work. But if they do trip or they do have a problem, there's nothing anyone can do. Now, when somebody come out to say that the government is broke and cannot buy fuel, can somebody please tell me what fuel we buy? The gas that we use is supplied by the Nigeria Gas and is supplied by Ghana Gas. Are they telling us that we cannot take the fuel from Ghana gas because we are broke? Are they saying that there's no gas coming from N-gas?
Well, one of the things that John Jinapor said was if you had not transported a car power plant to Kumasi and it was in Accra, I could have played a role.
No, that's Ameri.
The Ameri plant. Is this an advice you will give to your manifesto team in your next government in case it wins back?
The Kumasi, the Ashanti region area has a peculiar problem. And this administration has sought to solve that peculiar problem, which a lot of governments have not solved. Look, it has always been advised to most governments in the last 20 years that we need generation in the Middle Belt. All our generation is in the shore, in the southern part of the country. And as a result, there is a certain peculiar problem that exists in the central part that affects Ashanti region in particular. So basically what happens is that in the peak times, you realize that the Ashanti region gets low voltage and there's a lot of suppressed demand. The relocation of Ameri to Kumasi is to resolve this problem. A lot of people have spoken against this relocation of Ameri, but it is in the interest of the people of Ashanti region. That is why the Ameri is being relocated to Kumasi.
So this is something that you will maintain in the next government?
Yes, it's done. The relocation of Ameri is completed. It's 95% completed. It's just a matter of test run and commissioning. And that will be done in the next couple of months. So that 6 units that were taken to Kumasi will be now powered. Yes, that Ameri plant being out of the system is also causing a bit of a shortfall in the capacity that we have, admittedly. But my point is, let's not anybody go on and on about there is doomsday and government is broke. I don't get what the brokenness come in. We supply our own gas from Ghana gas. We get gas from Nigeria. So where do we buy fuel from that they are trying to make it look like government doesn't have money to buy fuel? Buy fuel from where?
Well, let me bring in Dr. Kwadwo Poku. I know you haven't launched your manifesto team yet, but I know you've been working towards your manifesto. You just ended your policy dialogue recently. The current situation is putting a lot on your table to consider for the energy sector in terms of your manifesto, right? Dr. Kwadwo Poku, kindly unmute for me. Hello, Dr. Donko. Sure.
You.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah. The party recognizes that energy is the bedrock of any industrialization. And therefore, in our planning towards the launch of our manifesto, we're taking energy seriously. But we also recognize that energy is not a static issue. What is adequate today will not be adequate tomorrow. And therefore, we have to plan ahead. And it is for this reason that the NDC in the last John Mahama administration planned to meet current demand and also plan to have a strategic reserve or a reserve margin for which our opponents claim we are contracted excess power. But yes, we recognize the challenges of the day. We are shedding load. There is no defense of that. We are shedding load. Yes, we have issues with paying for gas. Even if the gas is domestic, we pay for it. And in any case, the gas we bring from the west to the east, the reverse flow, is transported for us by the West African Gas Company and West African Pipeline Company. And too often in the past, they have held us to ransom because we owe them. These are facts that we should not be contesting. I believe what we should be doing is going forward. How do we, one, make the energy system more efficient? How do we, two, make it more robust? And three, how do we match growing demand to our ability to supply at a cost-effective price? And this is what our manifesto committee will be looking at.
Kwadwo Poku, what's the focus of your team as you prepare the manifesto for the NPP?
Well, I'm happy to take the notes that my big brother, Mr. Dr. Kwabena Donkor, has put down. But the most important thing that we are talking about is that, yes, there is indebtedness in the system. Nobody has denied that indebtedness. So yes, WAPCO and all those people are owed some money. But the most important thing is that government is in the forefront of those payments. What will be very important to us will be what we call the 3 Fs: facility, fuel, and basically, I'll just come back to the last F in a minute. But the facility is basically the IPPs that basically make sure that we are able to now keep the growth going, as he is talking about, looking ahead. Then you have the fuel, which is the gas that you need, because mostly now about 75% of our generation is from thermal. Then the fund. So the 3F is facility, fuel, and funded. So the third part is to make sure that the finances is available, to make sure that all the two, the facility and the fuel, is available to the Ghanaian public. So we would heavily rally around the 3Fs to make sure that we solve the lasting problem of power crisis. But let me make this point. My Dr. Donkor mentioned that the NDC government made sure there was enough capacity, and the MPP government came and cancelled. There was a committee set up by Setekwe, Honorable Setekwe. That committee recommended to the NDC that as of 2016, the mess that has been created, the excess power that has been signed, if they are not cancelled, Ghana will spend $568 million a year. That is not me. That is a committee that Honorable Setekwe formed that told him, Honorable Setekwe, but by the time they were leaving office, the excess capacity which they have signed and leaving behind to the MPP will cost the government $568 million a year. Now, tell us, what does a prudent government do? Do we sit and do nothing and pay $560 million a year, or do we now rectify and clean that space, which is what the MPP did? We cleaned the space to make sure that we take out a lot of the IPPs that have been signed on to the power purchase or the MOUs that were not necessary. So that exercise was very necessary, and it was a recommendation made by the committee formed by the NDC.
But even the ones you left, have you been able to pay the debt owed them?
Well, the take or pay. I mean, at the end of the day, what you have faced with is take or pay. The government has paid a lot of it, but yet still we owe. Look, we all owe. I mean, if government owe, it's not Kwadwo Poku that owe, it's not the Nana that owe, it's all of us that owe. Now that we are talking about no money and there is no capacity and there is no fuel, nobody has talked about the E&I gas, which is more expensive, that we have a take or pay, but we are paying. Nobody is talking about the IPPs that were very expensive that were left behind. We are paying. One of the conversation, and me and my brother, my uncle, Dr. Donkor, agree on this. The excess capacity conversation has to be taken into consideration by Parliament and PURC. It shouldn't be a cost that is seen as a nuisance. Okay, so the excess capacity should be factored into our tariffs so the country can plan better. And those are some of the things that some of us in our manifesto committees will be looking at. That looking forward, do we now have to get Parliament to pass law and PURC to basically take it on board so that the excess capacity conversation is dealt with not as a nuisance but as a requisite for our power planning.
Well, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, we agree that energy issues are very delicate and it keeps rearing its head at any given time. For any government, do you have a plan to deal with our power situation once and for all? And if you listen to Kwadwo Poku, he says it is something that recurs. Everybody owes. That's how he puts it. Do you have a plan to deal with that challenge once and for all?
Well, our committee will be looking at, first of all, the power sector as a subsector of the energy. We'll also be looking at petroleum sector. We'll also be looking at the renewable sector. The renewable space provides some opportunity to ameliorate the cost of fuel. However, we also recognize that there is some amount of redundancy required, and I will not call that excess capacity. You need a reserve margin because you are dealing with plants. If you are able to meet your demand, just exactly match your peak demand to your supply, anytime one plant goes down, Anytime a plant goes down for maintenance or in an emergency, you have a challenge. And therefore, you are always going to need some capacity beyond what you need every day. But more importantly, as the economy grows, and you have our president probably out of the country touting for investment, no investor is going to wait for you that, okay, I'm bringing in my investment for an iron and steel complex, and it will take about 3 years to set up a thermal plant, so I will wait for you. When you set up a thermal plant, I come. No investor is going to wait for you. You are going to need to have the power available. In the period while the power is available, and which serves as leverage for attracting investment, the power has to be paid for. And that is, again, where the conversation must go. How do we mainstream the reserve requirement into the national budget so that it is seen as a developmental expense rather than an expense on the on ECG and NETCO? We need to think beyond the orthodox. We need to move out of orthodoxy. And we also need to move away from petty politicking, which is being a bane of the sector. We really have to look at, are we desirous of developing, of industrializing, especially having a manufacturing base? If we are, power is sine qua non, and therefore somebody has to pay for the power whilst we attract the investment. And apart from foreign investors, our own demand, look at our building pattern. 20 years ago, if you took the cantonment's residential area, there were single bungalows on 1 acre land and with 1 or 2 air conditioning. Today, we have converted all of them into huge apartment complexes with serious air conditioning. So there is really growth. But we have another challenge. That is the financial management of the macro economy. Our payables in terms of IPPs, even in terms of VRA, and mind you, VRA is still the single largest power supply and not any IPP. Even in terms of them, most of the payables are dollar denominated. The receivables are CD denominated. And therefore, when we so mismanage our macro economy, that there is no financial stability, that today the dollar is at 13 cedis, we have a challenge with payment, even with the best of intentions. Again, our manifesto will look at the question of efficiency. Is our energy sector efficient? I personally, and this is a personal position, that I believe a 20% efficiency in the cost of operations will go a long way in making our energy sector robust. We have challenges, but our manifesto, when it comes up, will seek to address the challenges as we see them. Remember, I started this conversation by saying that power is a dynamic situation. It's not static. So even as we plan for the next 4 years and the next 5 years, there are going to be externalities. Assuming, and that is my prayer, we discover geothermal energy in Ghana, it is going to change the dynamics. And therefore, we must be prepared. We must also go through institutional reforms. Are our institutions, energy sector institutions, serving us well? Can their efficiency be improved? Those are the issues that the NDC manifesto will address.
All right, so definitely we'll be monitoring, especially these two major political parties, the NPP and the NDC, on what they bring to us in terms of energy, because as we said from the beginning, it's a very delicate issues. Dr. Kwadwo, I'm grateful for your time. Kwadwo Poku, I'm so grateful that both of you joined. Let's get on.